Veritas says, theologically speaking, who does Tom Bombadil best represent within Christendom?
Within Christendom, I don't think it'd be easy to make him represent somebody within this Christian order that we have, right? But if we talk about concepts, where we talk about themes or ideas that revolve around Bombadil, right? Bombadil is sort of pure love of creation that God has given us, right? He doesn't exert domination, not even over his own little old forest, right? He sings at Old Man Willow, but he doesn't make Old Man Willow be uprooted. He doesn't chop him down. He doesn't do any of these things, right? So there's power. There's all sorts of power associated with Bombadil, but it's turned in wonder to the enjoyment of creation and to the sort of celebration of God's creation, which is why he just hops along in his own little merry way without any thought of control. And this is why the ring has no control over him. That was one of the most
fascinating scenes.
Right?
Spell it out for us, for those who aren't aware.
So Bombadil sees Frodo. Frodo puts on the ring, tries to sneak out.
And he sees him.
He sees him because, again, the one who has completely emptied himself of all this desire for control, the ring, which is itself this desire for control, can't possibly affect, right? Frodo gives him the ring. Bombadil plays with it. He makes it disappear. He makes it reappear. But again, because he has no such desire for himself, and because he's of such a high order, it doesn't impact him at all. So here you have someone who just purely enjoys the celebration of and the contemplation of, I would say, creation, right? He's got joy just in a tree for being a tree, or wonder at a flower for being a flower, not a desire to control them, to breed them, to improve them, but just that, right? And this is where he's actually, he's sort of a character of restoration, right? He speaks in verse, he speaks in poetry, because there's this natural primal simplicity and innocence to him, which is beautiful. When the hobbits are around him, they start speaking in verse, and they start singing as though it were more natural than talking. So it's this recapturing of a primal innocence. If the fall comes through pride and desire for domination, restoration comes from humility and wonder, and that's what Bombadil's doing. So I can't think of anyone in Christendom who quite would represent that. If we're looking for analogous figures, I think the closest analogous figures you could find would be
Joseph Pierce.
I think you'd find those medieval figures, right? Those medieval figures, those saints who had so far conformed themselves to Christ that they owned all things, right? The ones who have come so close to Christ that they sort of recaptured the Edenic prerogatives, such that here's St. Francis and the Wolf, right? Or here's St. Cuthbert with ravens bringing him food, and even the sea and the waves obeying him, because
the holy fool.
It's the holy fool who has become so conformed to Christ that all creation is there sort of at his command, although he doesn't really usually command, right?
What is Tom Bombadil, and how was he first received by the first readers of The Lord of the Rings?
I don't know what the original reception of Bombadil is. I should know that. In the overall theme of the work, he's probably a spirit of a similar order to Gandalf, right? Who came in and is, in origins, sort of this spirit of the Oxfordshire countryside, right? That's what he represents. He existed before Lord of the Rings in these stories that Tolkien would tell his kids, right? But he gets sort of swept up into the story as a thematically enlarged and developed character who I think is worth having around.
So this is just my poor attempt of trying to understand Bombadil, but for me, he represents those people I encounter in life who will not be categorized. And I think of my son, Peter, who we mentioned a moment ago. Like I try to like box him in so I can comprehend him, but he keeps bursting my categories asunder. And it's irritating when you meet, not my son, but it's irritating when you meet people like that. Sometimes they seem like they're looking for attention. Why are they dressing funny? Why do they speak like that? You because of your own hard-heartedness, perhaps presume it to be arrogance, and then you realize it's not, and you just, it's frustrating.
And again, it's frustrating to a person like me, because I like categories. I like to be able to file things away. I like to have my bounds of experience, and I know how everything fits. Bombadil is somebody who doesn't fit. There's a wider world and a greater sort of energy and wonder to what God's given us than naturally fits in the categories we have. And I think Bombadil very importantly represents that.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.